My parents met in Scientology. They were young, they believed in changing the world, they believed in the good of humanity, and there was this group of people who believed in the same thing.
Honestly, it was like doing a drug for the first time. Oh my God, this is so good.
And I came back and said, this is correct, this is my true path, this is who I want to be.
So long story short, I would never be part of an organized religion ever again.
Yeah, early life.
Gosh, I mean, yeah.
It was a good childhood for the most part.
I don't actually really remember a lot of that time in my life. I think like now looking back, my body was in survival mode so hard that my memory wasn't really the priority.
My dad is like a super hippie musician, so like I never grew up around real like mask culture. It was always really kind of feminine and gentle.
My father's a wonderful man, but he was an old school Lebanese village guy, so they kind of got a different way of expressing love, you know, it's taking care of the family. And
my mum was always wore the pants and was kind of like she was in charge of the house in a really kind of loving, beautiful way. We always spoke about our feelings.
I didn't have that in-home, affectionate kind of thing that a young preteen would need.
Obviously, it's such a key time for like learning who you are and what you like and what you don't like and what you believe and that sort of thing. And I think in a way I just didn't really have any capacity for that. Like I didn't really have capacity to feel safe enough or like supported enough to be like, who am I as a person?
And that's really, I think what really defined my childhood is that me and my sisters were allowed to be the way we were, and we were never questioned for it. And I think that's something that in my adult years has really served me well, because now it kind of, being myself doesn't feel hard, which I feel like so lucky. Now that I'm out in the world as like an adult, I'm just like, there's a lot of fucking assholes everywhere. And I feel like it's just people that weren't allowed to really become who they were.
I think that's also why those kind of younger years felt so chaotic, because I didn't really have much of a sense of self, I guess you could say. It was very much like, I am just existing. I'm just trying to make it from like day to day. Yeah.
As a kid, I wasn't very into religion. I had to be kind of blackmailed to go to church with my mum.
It was more of just like a done thing as opposed to like a deeply held faith.
So, I was raised in the Church of Scientology for the first, I'd say decade of my life. It was a big, huge part of my life. I remember spending weekends in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, going to the central city, going to the Scientology headquarters. I remember having a great time. I remember learning a lot of great things. For me, it was like, it was community. It was friends, it was my family.
When did I begin searching for God?
So I think my parents are free thinkers, and I think the teachings of Scientology aligned with them. There's beautiful things that you can learn, like every religion.
I didn't really have any like divine experiences. I feel like at the time I was just searching for connection.
I began with putting on the Christian station. Real good music, by the way.
The Christian girls at my school, they were so warm and so like accepting and loving.
This energy of just like positivity, positivity even when there's blood pouring down your face, you're still positive,
They just wanted to be my friend. And that was a completely new experience for me. I'm pretty sure if a different group had found me at that time, I would have gone with them. I think at the beginning it wasn't so much about who they were, but it was more about how they made me feel.
And again, I think this is kind of like how a lot of people find religion, right? They were young, they believed in changing the world, they believed in the good of humanity, and there was this group of people who believed in the same thing. I think a lot of the time these things start as such innocent, wonderful things.
We're all here for a greater purpose, and we're here for one reason, and we're a family, we're all God's children, that sort of thing.
Yeah, woo! Aliens exist, okay, whatever, Tom Cruise is the God, fine. He's got great teeth, I'm happy with that,
The ads on this radio station were advertising Hillsong Conference.
The first time I went, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. It's like getting a hit of something.
The music, the lights, I mean, it was like a movie. I mean, the things that went down in that place.
I needed that feeling so badly when I was that age that I pretty quickly became addicted to it.
You get involved straight away.
And I remember thinking, looking at all these adults being so like, woohoo, and just thinking, what the fuck are you on? This cannot be how good life is as an adult, please, you know? You're 40 and divorced. This can't be that happy, you know?
I don't really remember the day I became a Christian, but it was like a day. Everyone around me was crying and hugging me, and they were so happy. And I think that's why it was so euphoric in a way, because all of these people were so happy to like have me in their little group.
I'd finish work, go home, shower, drive to Hillsong Church, because there was always something to do.
You know, if we would go to a church camp and you'd meet other Christians and automatically you're like, we're friends, like we get each other because we're living for the same reason. So there really was this immense feeling of being brought into something that was so much bigger than just you.
We all think the same or else. You know, that kind of is very fucking culty. I think CrossFit is culty.
At the beginning, it was really easy to kind of almost just wash away any semblance of like who I was as a person.
But also enjoying the feeling of being told what I think. It's easy.
But we can't all just be in this same group and just deny what's such beauty out there, because it's beauty.
If you're ever anywhere where you can't, you know, question what is being put before you, that's a fucking call. Like, you know, and I include the office in this. I include like so many things in this. You know, you could say the gay community, but sucking dick doesn't mean that we all get along. Like, it's not the ultimate belief. Well, I guess it's one of our beliefs, but like, you know.
Also having a family who didn't go to church, who I was super convinced was going to hell. Yeah, I very much was kind of at home trying to convert them, trying to like evangelize to them and be like, you know, look at this amazing life that I've found. And I must have seemed completely insane from their perspective. I think the speed bumps came when my brain almost started kind of like adjusting to being in the church and being a Christian, and then having to make sense of the way that my brain thought.
Why do I have to start questioning again? I'm happy here. I'm happy being a Christian. Why do I have to, like, okay, just stay. Who cares if you don't believe it? Just pretend you believe it.
Like, I have always been a very sexual person, and going into the church, it was very much, you know, you save sex for marriage and sexual sin is bad.
They would call like things that you were holding inside that were maybe like not so great things, personal withholds. And they would always talk about, you know, queerness as being this personal withhold, being gay as a personal withhold. And now it's like, yeah, a withhold of cock, that's what it is, but Jesus.
It was never spoken. In fact, the opposite was said. I would always hear, you know, like sexual sin's like just as bad as anything else. Like it's just the same as any other sin. But it wasn't really true.
My church actually thinks that being gay is actually okay by us. No one's fucking asking.
You know, being with a girl was always like, you had to do it in secret, you had to be careful, there was always tiptoeing, you know.
There was this whole part of me that felt not right or good in God's eyes. It like really drove home within me this feeling that I was like deeply flawed.
Meeting this girl, having the relationship I had, we became intimate, so we broke the rule. But no one's gonna find out. Why should anybody find out, right? Anyway, she went behind my back and she emailed the powers that be in the college about it. I was suspended from college. I was stripped of my leadership. And yeah, that began my descent at Hillsong Church.
But I remember when we decided to leave Scientology, I remember it happened slowly.
It's usually not just like one event that happens and all of a sudden you're like, fuck this, because it's your whole life.
I think you always think like Hollywood vibe of like, there's like dun 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 dun, and it's done, like that's that. But I think in reality, it was over the space of years.
It's like deciding to cut off a limb sort of a thing, like you really have to be at breaking point.
It's hard to leave something that you believe in to some extent, or it's hard to leave people that you've created relationships with.
You're giving up your closest friends in a way. You're giving up your community, you're giving up your family. You're giving up the thing that has like given you purpose for years. Like I really was trying so hard to stay because I was terrified to leave because I didn't know what life would look like without the church.
And then all of a sudden, slowly but surely it was like, okay, we're not going every week. Okay, we're not going every month. Okay, like the energy that they possessed for it slowly started to fade.
At the time, to people who would ask in the church, I was using the excuse of like, my mental health's not going well and that sort of thing. But I think my body and my mind already sensed that that I no longer fit into that community.
And I think the reverb of that, I've never felt like I'm in the group since I left Scientology. And I don't know if that's because I was young and I liked being a part of it. And then what I got from it was that kind of like camaraderie of like, we all think the same, even though I had no fucking clue what we thought.
But that was when I started meeting new people. And for the first time, it just felt easy. It didn't feel like I had to be anything. I didn't have to be a good Christian to, feel accepted by them. I could just be.
I think my parents really encouraged me to actually get into like acting and all that sort of stuff, because it was maybe a year or two after we left, and I needed to find something that I felt a part of. And the thing about groupthink, that Scientology was, of everyone thought the same, is you belong. You belong. And all of a sudden I felt like I belonged to something, and then all of a sudden I didn't.
Oh God. I think it's really easy to say like, don't do it. But I think in reality, like I don't regret my time in the church. I wouldn't do it again.
The reverb of that has really stuck with me, actually, of like never fully feeling like I'm a part of something and never wanting to feel like I'm part of something. Because it's almost like the minute I feel like I'm subscribing to that kind of common group think, I've kind of lost the battle and I'm in a cult again.
I think if I was like speaking to little baby Ella, I would just, I feel like I'm gonna cry. I'd just show them a photo of like my friends now and be like, this is what you have to look forward to. It will take you a really long time to get there and it'll be really hard, but you have this beautiful family waiting for you and they will be with you forever and you will find your place.
Spirituality doesn't necessarily have to be an afterlife. It doesn't necessarily have to be something bigger than just kind of enjoying life and spreading love.
Things that I enjoy, that I've always enjoyed, things that have helped me throughout my life. Like people can view it however they want, but they're not in my shoes. Nobody is in anybody else's shoes but your own. You need to enjoy life within the realms of permissibility. We don't choose what we enjoy.
I don't want to have something external to myself that tells me who I am.
I'm a contrarian for that reason. If someone's like, this season it's all about purple, I'm like, well, this is pink, bitch. Like, that's the way that Jake's going. And to hold myself to any piece of text that was written by man. Have you met men? I'm sure a lot of people out there are men. I'm sorry, but have you met us?
I do amazing things and I do terrible things, and I think that's just part of being a person. But yeah, I think I've passed the point where I want something that I can define, because that's boring.
And also, can I just clear something up here? A lot of people say people do the whole Hitler was just a repressed gay. Not every psychopath was just a repressed gay. Some people are just assholes, okay? Don't give them over to us. We don't want them in our fucking sphere.